One of the things we run into a lot is having to verify where the funds are coming from for closing. It's one thing if it's just sitting in your checking account or your savings account, and it's easy to verify the location of it because it's just been there, right? But we also know that your money moves in and out. Sometimes you get funds coming in from different sources. You're investors. You're investing money in different places. We have to know where that came from. I don't have to get into the whole discussion about fraud or illegal activity or terrorism or things like that to explain that we are required to verify the source of those funds. And that came from a legal source. And it's a source of yours, right? In the investment world, gift funds are not acceptable. We can't just have your mother or your father or your brother or your sister or somebody just gave you the money. Unfortunately, we can't do that. But if you have a balance in your account and we're only looking at 2 months worth of statements, I've got a statement that pops up for this most current month and the one before, and there's no big deposits in there. There's nothing for us to ask about because we don't see it. But if you gave me a statement that has a big deposit that we can't see where it came from, it doesn't show that it came from your payroll, it doesn't show that it came from some source we already know about, it just came from some random source or it just says cash, we have to ask. So take a look at your statements before you send them. See if there's something that you cannot verify, you cannot show. You may have to wait. Now let that money sit there for a little while before we move forward. The other thing is we can use 401ks, IRAs for reserves, money market accounts, some mutual funds. You can have other trading accounts that you can use as long as it's liquidatable. That's what you have to ask yourself. Can I liquidate these funds? If it's like a 403B or something like that says you can't liquidate it unless you leave that job or you retire, well, of course it's not liquid funds anymore. We can't use that as reserves because it has conditions. The conditions say you have to have two things happen that we don't want you to have happen. Really, if you leave that job, then what? Now do you have the ability to repay that loan? We run into a whole other problem. If you retire, we have a whole different qualifying issue we have to go through. It could work. But if that's what the need is for that particular account, we may want to look for different reserves. Another acceptable way of putting a down payment, but not reserves, would be a HELOC, a line of credit. And the reason that works versus like a credit card is that's tied to your house. That is your asset. Your home has equity in it and you could tap into that equity. And just because you moved it from the equity in your home to your account, it doesn't have to cease in 60 days. We just have to show where it came from. As long as we can trail it back, we're in good shape. When you can't trail it back is when an issue comes about. So that's something that I need you to take a very close look at. Understand we need to have enough for the down payment. $100,000 property, putting 20% down, that's $20,000, right? Let's say your cost, just round up $5,000 to $5,500. Now we're at $25,500. Now you have to also have reserves. We have to show that there's a certain amount of money left over in your asset accounts, however many you have, to cover any potential risk of income not coming in. You got to make payments. So you have to have reserves for the property you're buying, 6 months principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and then so many months reserves on any other properties you have. Now, talk with Carla about that. She'll walk you through it. She has a calculator to help you. Just be sure you're communicative with Carla or Ellen or your processor, those who want to work with you to help you get this done.